This is Pod Populi, podcast for the people.
Hey there, and welcome to the Cinnamon Effect podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Hand, and I'm thrilled to have you with me on this vibrant journey of discovery and growth. This podcast is your go-to space for embracing intention, where you'll find clarity on your unique path, deepen those meaningful connections, and unleash your creativity like never before. We'll explore how to build unshakable confidence and celebrate the beauty of gratitude, all while savoring the calm that consistency brings to our lives. Thank you for being with me. Let's sprinkle a little cinnamon into your day and make life sweeter, healthier, and more fulfilling. Welcome back to the Cinnamon Effect. Today I am here with Dr. Avianne Hospedales. She's a board-certified internist with over a decade of experience, and we are going to dive into longevity medicine, the pillars of wellness, the screenings that you need to be doing at what ages. We're gonna go through all of that. So Dr. Avianne, I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're the best.
Oh, thank you.
You're so beautiful, I have to just say, because your inner light shines.
Thank you so much.
Bright.
And likewise, I walked in and I saw this beautiful outfit and I feel so inspired, and the green, it's lovely. So thank you so much.
And you're glowing in white.
Thank you.
Always start out with a compliment. That always makes people feel less nervous.
Yes.
Relax. Yes. So I want you to dive right in and talk about longevity medicine, what that is, maybe how that differs from traditional approach to medicine.
So that's such a great question. And I think longevity is a popular word right now. And we want to understand exactly what does that mean. So longevity basically means not just living a long life, but really maximizing on how healthy those years are. What it really is excellent preventive medicine, which actually includes really good primary care as well. Longevity medicine, it encompasses a much broader array of tools and technologies than traditional medicine, might allow.
What kind of different modalities?
Okay, so another excellent question. So typically, let's say with the blood work, in traditional medicine, we may do a standard panel, which may include a few blood tests. So a CBC, comprehensive A1C lipid panel. And in some cases, that doctor may order a thyroid test as well, maybe just one, a TSH. With longevity medicine, functional medicine, we would go deeper and we would include hormone panels, advanced biomarkers such as ApoB or LP(a), which can give us more information into your unique individual cardiovascular risk, micronutrients such as vitamin D and vitamin B12, and so much more. So that's just on a comprehensive blood test basis. We would also have access to other testing such as a liquid biopsy, which is a blood test that can help us detect the earliest signs of cancer. So it looks for cell-free DNA, methylated DNA, and that can help us detect cancer before it's even, seen on other imaging tests. There are other tests such as whole body MRIs, for example, which are a little bit controversial. But then also some of my favorite testing, which give us really good insight and help to connect dots for patients, would be something like an advanced body composition DEXA scan, which will give us the bone mineral density, the muscle mass, the visceral fat. We can do VO2 max testing, which gives us an idea of your cardiovascular health. We can do strength testing as well, which gives us an idea, in addition to grip strength, your muscle mass and how strong you are, which, as we know, when we age, we are high risk for what we call sarcopenia, which means the muscles get, weaker and they get less, making us high risk for things like falls and fractures. So to tie that up, longevity medicine would be really good preventive care using the pillars of lifestyle, which we can get into, and these novel tools and technologies, many of which I left out, including the continuous glucose monitor, which is one of my favorite tools, to create an entire picture of that patient so we can understand their unique and individual risk for major diseases, the 4 horsemen, which would be cardiovascular disease, cancer, neurodegenerative disease, and metabolic disease as well. So once we understand what your risk is, we can implement specific strategies to help reduce that risk.
Wow. So I want to circle back on the liquid biopsy that you mentioned. Is that something that you would test for if there was a family history of a cancer or something like that? Or if someone just wants to gauge what's going on in their body, you'll do that?
Right. So that's a great question. So typically, cancer is one of these diseases that we usually pick it up when you have symptoms. So by the time you have symptoms with a cancer, it's already, an advanced stage, right? So we have standard screening tests such as mammograms, pap smears, and colonoscopies that can help us detect this earlier. But even at that early stage, maybe the size might be tiny. So the liquid biopsy is a blood test that can help us pick something up before it's even a dot, right? And so it's not to replace those other screening tests, but it's to be used in conjunction with the other screening tests that can help us get, I think, a better understanding of exactly what's going on. So to answer the question specifically, it's not reserved for only people with a family history, but it is for people. And I believe that the direction that we will head is that this will be standard of care. Currently, and unfortunately, it's not covered by insurance, but at some point it should be. Mm-hmm. And, we will all have access to this. For now, we would use it in select patients who want to know more and dive a little bit deeper. And we pair that with the standard screening tests.
When do you suggest, or do you suggest doing the full body scans? I know that's a hot topic now.
Yes. Okay, so another interesting conversation, the whole body scans. I would say first thing I have to say is that it's such a unique and individual decision. I don't know that it is for everybody. Mm-hmm. And there's so much to think about and consider before one can even decide to move forward with something like a whole body scan. I think this has to be done with your partner in health, which ideally would be a physician. And I know that's another conversation of how do I get this right partner who, is a doctor, right? And who is open to newer technologies and newer testing. I think some of the challenges that a lot of, patients experience is that they want to engage with their health on a more proactive level, but they don't necessarily have the right partner, or maybe they've discussed this with their traditional doctor and maybe they are not as encouraging or not as supportive. So I would say the first place to start would be to have that conversation with your physician, understand exactly what would the process look like, what is involved, what can I find out, and if I find something out, what are we prepared to do about it? I have nerves and anxiety about this. How are we going to help me through this? So I think it requires really understanding like what the goal is, and like if we did find something, like how will we address that? I think in my experience that helps to put patients at ease, know that they have support, but we also have a plan in place in case we have a positive result.
Yes, because it is a lot of information coming at you when you get one. I have not done that, but I've talked with other people that have, and it's like, okay, now you have all this information, and what are you going to do with it at this point?
I know, and I'll share my story. So I've had one. I was fortunate. I had a whole body MRI. Some of the information is like, oh, good to know, interesting. Like I have a deviated septum, didn't know it. Now I know, interesting, right? But some of the small details would pop up, and it's like, oh, it's good to know. So we'll monitor and track that. But also there are findings that you can act on. So for example, I always knew I had some curvature in my spine. I thought it was in the thoracic spine, but I found out it was actually my lumbar spine. So with my trainer, we've been really intentional with, the specific training program that can help to strengthen like the weaker side. So even with small changes in my training routine, I already feel so much of a difference. So that was, I think, a great example of something we didn't go in expecting to find, but, a change in my lifestyle actually helped me so much.
Yeah. Like that's like a little like adjustment,
yes,
right?
A little adjustment.
With a big impact.
With a big impact. And the other piece too is like, my mom, and I shared with you maybe before, she passed away of colon cancer. And, I have many people in my family who have had, some experience with cancer. So it's always been in my mind of, hey, it's not necessarily about age, but what do I need to know? And, in the news, we hear so much now about young people in their 30s, 40s, having cancer. And so now I have this information. So let's say with a whole body MRI and a liquid biopsy of, okay, we don't see anything on the scan. We don't see anything on the liquid biopsy. And that has given me, a greater sense of inner peace and calm of like, oh, so I can breathe. That's one of the things that I'm like, all right, so what are the other areas that I need to optimize? Now I have this fear out of my mind, I have more bandwidth to go after the things that could really move the needle, like lifestyle optimization.
Wow. I wouldn't think about that aspect of it, but almost it could put you at ease and help your mental health if you are struggling with someone in your family has passed from this. And because I have heard that from other people that, a parent has passed and they automatically are thinking that they are going to get it or have it,
Yep. And there are things that we can do and tools we can use to get the information that we seek.
Now, so we're kind of diving into the testing portions of that. The glucose monitor that you mentioned. You said that's one of your favorite ones. So if you want to talk about that.
Yes. Okay. So I'm a traditionally trained doctor, and making the transition from traditional medicine into a space of longevity medicine, functional medicine, there's a lot to not just learn, but unlearn as well. And, we're kind of raised of like, okay, these CGMs, continuous glucose monitors, are for diabetics. And if you're not diabetic, like, you don't need it. And I kind of stayed with this mindset for a while. Like even at the beginning of my practice, I would hear the experts who I love and have so much respect for talk about the CGMs, and I would just have this pause of like, I don't know. But my husband has always been into being proactive, and so he would follow Dr. Peter Attia and like take all the notes, bring it back to us, and he was always very, very proactive. So he, started off with the CGMs, and we would track his sugar, and then ultimately I got one myself. And everything shifted when I did it for myself, because all of a sudden I saw, wow, like here I am, like I have the information right in front of me. I thought it was doing that, but now I see that it is. And now I have the information that I need to change a certain behavior. So I think the CGM, there's on the other side of it is that, it's not the most accurate. So the finger stick one, the glucometer, that is the most accurate for blood sugar. And the continuous glucose monitor, you can see the accuracy, it can vary by even like 20 points. So it's not the most accurate, but for trending, it could be so powerful to see what impact certain foods are having on the blood sugar. And you can adjust and tweak. And the interesting thing is everybody's so different. So how you may respond to pineapple might be very different to how I might respond to it. And the other really powerful insight that I got with the CGM was the importance and the power of prioritizing protein and the impact that that has on the blood sugar spikes. So, for example, not to get into another controversial area, but oatmeal. Somehow it seems to be a very controversial food.
Yes.
And a lot of, the concerns are it pushes the sugar up. And it's interesting what happens when you pair oatmeal, let's say, with eggs, or you just start with the protein and then you have the oatmeal. The effect is very different.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm really interested in this because I think I'd probably be shocked if I were glucose.
Yes, you will
too. But that's interesting that someone could eat a piece of pineapple and another person could, and it could affect them totally
differently. Yes.
So interesting. So when you're wearing the monitor, you're avoiding. I know a glucose spike is not good.
Right.
So is there like a certain range that you're trying to not?
That's a good question. And so, when, let's say my patients, they connect to a glucose monitor, they connect to the practice and we're able to see, what's going on. So we drop in and we see what the average glucose is looking like. And then, of course, we meet with them and we ask, what did you learn? What are you seeing? What are you noticing? So, if we're being really, I don't want to say really aggressive, because I think that's the direction we should be heading, which is aggressive, right? If we want to mitigate our risk for metabolic disease, I think the more aggressively we could go after optimizing the sugar, the better our overall health and even well-being would be. The average, ideally should be around 100, which is tight control.
Okay.
Right? And then if you're really prioritizing protein, you're not going to see spikes that's super high above 130. You should not really be seeing that. So as close to the 100 mark as we can keep our patients through different strategies. A lot of it is exercise, sleep, stress management. I think I said prioritizing protein. We can actually move the needle a lot just with lifestyle strategies to keep that stable and not up and down.
Interesting. So the lifestyle choices of stress management could have something to do with glucose.
100%, because when we're stressed out, our cortisol goes up, and the cortisol can raise the blood sugar and cause all kinds of insulin resistance, etc. So stress management and sleeping, optimizing sleep, can have really a powerful impact on managing our blood sugar.
Wow.
And then the other piece too that we don't talk about really is the impact of hormones. So, as we age, hormones get a little bit out of whack. That can also impact, what we see with the sugar trends as well. So it's in the traditional medicine world, we'll say, oh, you're pre-diabetic, let's do the metformin, let's do the medications, etc. But we don't necessarily go beneath the hood of how are you sleeping? What's going on at work? How are you dealing with that? And so there's so much opportunity, I think, to help connect that dot for patients as well.
Are there any rules of thumb when it comes to prioritizing protein or how to eat a meal that you like to follow, like personally, or that you recommend?
Yes. So I would say that you want to aim for 1.6 grams per kg of protein. And I know most of us, we don't do our body weight in kg, so it would be like 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if you're, I don't know, let's say 110 pounds, 120 pounds, you would want to try to get in 120 grams of protein per day. So ideally, you would get it up front, right? And so you can, I know my mind is going so.
No, I love it. I love it.
But I was going to mention, it's not that easy to get that recommended amount of protein in. It will require, I think, being really intentional about it and very strategic. And I learned recently that 2 eggs, that's really only about 14 grams of protein. So, for a long time, that would be my, 2 eggs and, maybe some kimchi and some avocado. But I really had to rethink, am I getting enough protein in that one meal? And so sometimes we have to leverage a protein shake, which is its own conversation because everybody is different and everybody will respond differently to different types and forms of protein. So there's the whey proteins, and then there's the vegan proteins. However, you may have a sensitivity to whey. And and so we'd have to know that and really try. Sometimes it's trial and error to find the right shake or right protein powder that will work for you.
So first thing in the morning, protein immediately.
Well, and I think everybody's routine is a little bit different. And then we have the groups of people with the intermittent fasting. And,
how does that come into play with the glucose
It definitely comes into play with intermittent fasting. And there certainly is a role for it. I think the research and the evidence, sometimes it goes back and forth. But I think in general, there seems to be evidence to support that there is a role for intermittent fasting in this journey of longevity and health optimization. I would say, is it for everybody? I don't believe that. So I think it's really understanding you and your body and what do you need. So I would say if you are a breakfast person, yes, like prioritizing protein. And the other piece that I have to say about that is that everybody's different. So some people we've learned they have sensitivities to eggs. And it's like, what do we do in this situation?
That's me also.
Oh, interesting. So one of the big shifts that actually was so helpful for me, so I did this elimination diet and I was really lucky to work with a coach. And one of the empowering, I guess, questions that she asked was, well, why do we think like a meal has to be a certain thing or a certain way? So we all make this assumption that like breakfast has to be eggs or oatmeals, but that belief could actually be holding us back. So what would it look like to maybe have some ground turkey that maybe you put into like a little thing? Or what would it look like to have some sardines, and which is super affordable, lots of protein. And so I think if we get past the barrier of breakfast is, well, pancakes, which we're not doing that, right?
Try not to do the pancakes.
But the eggs and everything, we can actually use other tools that, can get us to our protein goals.
That's a really good point, because I'm one of those too that I found out that I can't have eggs because I actually have like an allergy to them. I get rashes and things when I eat them. And so that was hard because I was doing the same thing. I was having, eggs in the morning and keeping the breakfast foods at breakfast. But someone did say to me, well, why couldn't you have like chicken Caesar salad wrap or something, something that you would typically think of for lunch or dinner.
Yes.
Right.
And I love that you brought up like the food allergy. And I think this is an important area as well. So there's a big difference between like a food allergy and a food sensitivity. And so this has been so eye-opening for me on this journey with patients. And so a food allergy is something like called IgE mediated. So the immunoglobulins, we have different types. The IgE goes up when we have an allergy. So I'm allergic to hazelnuts, which means I get like hitch if I have hazelnuts, right? That's an allergy. But where most of us struggle or we experience some, some symptoms that sometimes we're not even aware of, right? And that's weird, right? I can have a symptom, but I'm not aware of it, and that happens. So this is a food sensitivity, which is usually vague. It's a little bit mild, and it could be so variable. It could be, I feel brain fog, I feel tired, I feel low energy, I just don't feel like myself, I'm bloated, something is off. And the other thing about a food sensitivity is that it doesn't have to be the same day. So you could have had some sensitive thing 2 days before, and here you are 2 days later, and you're like, I feel bad. Oh, I think it's the pasta I had at lunch, but it could have been something you had actually 2 days earlier.
Which is even sneakier.
Even sneakier.
Because how do you really determine what that is? And I think I did that. I was on that loop of trying to figure that out.
Yes.
And being like, I don't feel good today, but I really didn't have anything.
Yes. And so this is where I love to, there are two options, right? And they're so different. And the interesting thing is the gold standard is actually the more difficult one to do, which is the elimination diet. I don't know if you've ever done that.
I feel like I eliminated everything, and then it's kind of impossible to tell what was the culprit.
Okay,
right?
So, and this is why the elimination diet is awesome. So there's a specific list of everything that you remove, which you probably did remove. So, it's like dairy, gluten, alcohol, sugar, processed foods. I think shrimp is on there, peanuts, whole bunch of stuff, right? And the thing is, like, gluten is in all kinds of stuff. So sauces and all of that, packaged foods.
Very sneaky.
Very sneaky. So you remove all of that, which is coffee as well. Oh, it's just so hard. You remove everything. And then your body goes into this state of like, oh, what is happening? And then you remove it for a minimum of 21 days. And then one by one, you introduce it. And then you wait like 2 to 3 days. And if you feel fine, you're like, all right, I'm doing pretty good. Let me introduce something else. And then you keep, so it's a process, not easy. And I would say most people choose not to do this path. I did it, and it honestly was so informative. It was life-changing. I realized how sensitive I was to caffeine. So I did cut back.
Dr. Avianne. I can imagine as a doctor, caffeine is like pivotal.
Oh my gosh,
right?
yes. And it's a crutch. I was at one point having 4 cups of coffee every day. It's crazy. But that has impacts to our adrenal glands, the cortisol, like the whole thing. So the elimination diet is wonderful. For those who can and want to commit to that. The other option, there are food sensitivity tests, like blood tests that we can do. They're, of course, not covered by insurance, but they can give us very specific information. And what I like about that test is that even, let's say something like whey, you can break down, am I sensitive to whey or casein or just whole milk in general? And you can get very specific, is it mozzarella cheese? Is it cheddar cheese? And so I really like that as well, because we get good information. And with removing of these foods that if you're sensitive to, you get this low-grade inflammation in the background, we can help somebody just feel so much better. And I think everybody's on, some journey to feel better or do their best, I think is what I notice big time. We do our best. We're trying to exercise. I'm going to join this group. I'm working out. I'm going to go to the salad bar, all of that. And in that very salad that's healthy, there could be things that you're sensitive to.
Yes.
That you're doing the most and you're doing your best. And it's like, why don't I feel like this? And it's like, well, because there's some sensitivities going on.
I like your term, looking under the hood.
Yes.
Because you're really investigating. What is that noise knocking in the car, right? Let's go under the hood because we can't find anything really wrong, right?
Yes. And that's another big differentiator, I would say as well. Like in traditional medicine, this concept of, oh, I went to the doctor and my labs were normal. We hear that a lot. And so there's a big difference between normal labs versus optimal labs. So for example, like a TSH, which is a thyroid test. So it gets released from the pituitary. It sends a message to the thyroid. And that can go up if there's some sluggish natures of the thyroid. In traditional medicine, typically, like we don't respond to it unless that number is above 10. Whereas like with functional medicine, like by the time it's 2.5 and even 2.5, before 2.5, there is some level of, hey, let's look at this and like, what can we do to maybe optimize that? And it could be through food. It could be through certain supplements. It could even be through exercise. So there are things that we can do before these issues become a real problem.
So really, yeah, starting,
Yes.
because I had that experience actually
Yep.
going to a traditional practitioner.
Yeah.
They say, oh, your blood work looks fine.
Right.
And I think a lot of people can relate to that as
Yeah.
well. Saying, oh, well, I went to a traditional doctor and they
Yeah.
said everything was fine,
Yes.
but they still don't feel good.
Yes. And the other big piece of that is that the blood work that was checked, and I know we mentioned it earlier, it may have been about 5 blood tests, right? But really what needed to be assessed may not have been checked. So, for example, the cortisol may not have been checked. The vitamin B12 may not have been checked, or the vitamin D. Hormones, right? I think I met, but like that's a big one. Like, especially women age 35. I feel like women at age 35, this is, we think perimenopause is closer to 50, but it can start as early as 35. And we just feel like something is wrong. Like, do I have cancer? Am I dying? Like, what is happening?
Right.
Seriously. And
It does feel like we're dying over here.
And we're limping along. But we don't realize that the progesterone is starting to go down. And the progesterone helps us sleep better and helps us stay more calm and stay more focused, and we're not as irritable like with the kids, So what if we know that and we can capture that, then we can actually tweak and help somebody really feel more energetic and like more like themselves.
Yes. The progesterone, don't they call it the happy hormone?
Happy hormone, yes. I like to call it the queen hormone. Like it's so
like
queen-like, but I know estrogen gets all the attention. But progesterone, I think, is really the true MVP.
Yes.
Yes.
I have experience with it, and
Yes.
it has helped me for sure.
Yes.
The sleeping and all of that. Yeah, it makes such a difference.
Amazing.
Yeah. Hormones. Oh my God. Do you want to talk more about that? Like, what would you do? Perimenopausal woman comes to your office.
Right.
Are you just going straight for the hormones?
Oh, that's such a great question. And so I think a lot of what we do, especially in our practice and other similar practice, it is a journey and it's a process. So we usually don't jump to prescriptions. We really want to know and understand that person. We want to get to know you and your story and your background, and tell us how it all began, and where were you born, and were you breastfed, not breastfed. We want to know all the details, right? What keeps you up at night? What's worrying you? What's stressing you out? Like, what medications are you on? How many times have you been on antibiotics in the last year? All of these things, they shape our health and well-being. And then we would do a comprehensive blood panel that would include the hormones and the thyroid and the cortisol and the insulin and all the inflammatory markers. And then we spend time. And I would say we spend a lot of time on education and empowering. So, you would know exactly, these are my white cells, my red cells, this is my kidney function, so you will know, okay, I have a good understanding of my health. And we treat our patients like the CEOs of their health. They are all treated like professional athletes. Like, we're doing what are they up to? That's what we're doing. So we may not look at ourselves as the leaders of our health or the CEOs of our health, but ultimately we need to know what we're looking at, and we need to start tracking. So a lot of the time and the energy is, what are the numbers? Where do I stand? What is my risk? What's our plan to mitigate that? And then in conversations with our patients, like, we want to make sure they understand risks and benefits, because yes, we have some amazing tools in the toolkit, like progesterone, like estrogen, etc. And there are so many benefits. And I think that women's health, there's so much opportunity there, with the Women's Health Initiative and, the misinformation and the miseducation that came about from that. And also, if a patient is going to start some type of treatment, they really need to know and understand, like, what are we getting into? What can we expect? And for some people, it may be the right next step. And for some people, it may not be. And the other really cool thing is that we dive deep on all the pillars. So there's nutrition, there's sleep, there's stress management, there's exercise. And so the next step may not necessarily be pills or hormones or a therapy, but it could be we got to eliminate processed foods. Right? That intervention on its own, I think, can transform so many lives. So I think I want to underscore that point. Like, eliminate processed foods. If it's in a package, a bag, it's whatever it is, that would be the first thing we want to get rid of. I think juices, sodas, cakes, cookies, they're not helping us. They're not serving us. But the processed foods piece would be, a great, that's like a non-negotiable.
Yes. Yeah. I think we probably all could work on that a little bit.
Right. Because it's a fast pace. Like with time, we want to grab something, let me get something quickly. So it's really hard to make this big shift into what does it look like for me to prioritize my nutrition. And I've heard firsthand from, patients of our practice as well of like, whoa, this is going to be kind of like an investment. And there's also a realization of either I need to invest in it, whether it's time, energy, whatever it is, or maybe I have to invest resources. So I outsource and I delegate that. But not to Chick-fil-A, but to somebody who I know is preparing it with the highest quality ingredients, without the seed oils, and like really taking this seriously.
Yes. The seed oil is such a conversation. Actually, I have a podcast coming out about that, the seed oils. Just how to identify, because they're again, very sneaky in different things. What I learned, actually, avocado oil could not be completely avocado oil. There's other oils that get snuck in, like in a product that says it's made with avocado oil. They are now trying to test to see if that is really pure avocado oil, or somewhere down the line it's been infiltrated by a seed oil. Which, like, you think you're doing the best that you can. I mean, you are doing the best that you can.
Yep.
But then these other sneaky little factors come in.
100%. And I would say, I mean, I'm a physician. And before this whole shift into this style of medicine, I definitely was a victim of that, right? So we would buy salad dressings and you have organic, new, it looks really like there's nothing in it. And then when you turn around, it's all the sunflower seed oils in it. And you're thinking that, oh yeah, I'm having salads, I'm doing my best. And no, like, it's a leaky bucket.
Yeah.
It's like, so yes, I've learned that very hard lesson too.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Dr. Avianne, I'd love to know kind of a day in the life of what you are eating. What are some things that you're doing? What is like your morning routine if you have one? Like, I would love any of those.
Okay, I love that.
Details.
Oh, thank you. I think that's such a fun question to answer. So, breakfast, I would say in the last 2 years is very different to what it used to be. And I would say, when I was in traditional practice, I probably was the unhealthiest I have ever been. Pretty unhealthy with the habits I mentioned, 4 cups of coffee every day. So, kind of jumping out of that and optimizing, I would say for the last maybe 2.5 years, there's been so many shifts. So now, the breakfast typically looks like, eggs, depending on how much time I have or don't have. It could have spinach, it could have some tomatoes in it. They could just be boiled eggs, or they could be scrambled together. And then usually kimchi for the probiotics, which I've grown to really enjoy.
I love kimchi
You
too.
do?
I do.
I think a lot of people don't, but it took me a minute. And one thing I would say with that is to start small. So at first I might have 1 forkful, but now it's like, okay, I have like a nice little serving of kimchi, and half of an avocado with some sea salt. I like the pink Himalayan salt. And that would be typical breakfast. I might grab some berries after, just to make it more fun and and joyful.
Love bear. I love berries.
Yes,
I like that. Definitely more joyful.
More joyful. And then, you know, I might have some almonds or some pistachios or some cashew nuts, you know, as a snack on the go. Depending on the day, I may have a protein shake. I'm just calling myself out. I don't do it every single day, but it is variable, but it is in there. And then, you know, lunch, I love sweet potatoes with a grilled chicken breast. Sometimes, you know, if there might be a salad that goes with that, and sometimes the time might not allow for that. Some days it could be salmon that maybe I prepared the night before, or ground turkey, which is like one of my favorites. So ground turkey, we'd put some tomatoes in there, some jalapeno peppers to give it some extra flavor.
Good idea. I like that.
We'll even throw spinach in it. And so it's this nice kind of, not like chili, but something similar to that. And it's very tasty. And I might have that with sweet potatoes as well. That would be a typical lunch. And dinner, I would like to say it's something really inspiring, but if we had the chicken, it might be the turkey. So there's not a whole lot of deviation from this. So this is the core, you know. What may flex might be mushrooms as a side might come in, you know. Maybe some broccoli and carrots that I put into the oven might get weaved into it, just depending. But the core is really the same. Everything else is variable. And I do like salmon. I think I mentioned that. A nice big salmon, and that's plenty for us. And we love Costco.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Great choices at Costco.
The best.
Yeah.
And so much. And one of the thing I have to share as well, learning to cook more in bigger batches so that you always have something in the fridge ready to go. One tip that I learned that I haven't really leaned into is freezing the food. So that you put all this time and energy into this much, maybe make this much, use this much, and freeze the rest.
That's a great idea.
And I know, and it's next level, and I just haven't done it.
Yeah, because are you prepping like kind of for the week on like a Sunday, or
fully transparent? We do have some support. So I think this is one of the areas where, you know, we do some of it, and also there's some delegation that goes into that. And I think that was something we had to learn. At one point, you know, I was doing it all, and it became, I think, overwhelming. And I think as we talk about joy and like, one thing I'm learning now is how do we keep me in my zone of genius? Right? And how do we keep me? Do I really need to be doing that? Or maybe somebody else can do that to support me? And what is it that I need to focus on that only I can focus on? And that's a huge shift. It's not easy.
I love that term, the zone of genius.
Yes.
That's incredible.
And we feel less stressed out about,
Yes.
you know, when we're doing the things that fill our cup and bring us joy, we show up differently for our kids and for our spouse and for the patient. So we need to stay in the zone of genius.
Love that.
Right.
Now, I mentioned human design to you
Yes.
prior. Are you familiar with that, or do you?
What? I have some awareness of it.
Okay.
There's some people on Instagram that I follow that they always talk about it. I have done mine.
Okay.
But I never had like an official, like anybody sit with me to review it. So I have some ideas and I have some YouTube videos in my mind, but I'm no expert, and like I've never had an expert sit with me.
Do you know if you're a generator or
a generator?
You're see, I am too.
Yeah.
I thought you were.
Tell me everything. tell me.
Well, I feel like the main point is basically what you said.
Oh.
The generators only like to be in their zone of genius. So it's only like the things that light them up and they think that they're good at and they excel at and they really get energized by.
Right.
That's what they want to do.
Ooh.
And they don't want to do the other things, which is so me, because I'm like, I don't want to do that over there. And like
Yes, I can definitely relate to that.
But, you know, as obviously you're a doctor and a mom and, you know, doing all these things. So staying in, you know, that zone and being able to delegate and give, you know, some other tasks to other people, I think is really important if you're able to do that.
It definitely has helped me. show up as like a much better version of myself.
Yeah, you're a generator. You just want to be.
Honestly, if my day was filled with all like the patient appointments, this is where like my energy is filled. Like I love the conversations. I love when, we're able to ask questions that all of a sudden create some insight and connects a dot. Like this fills me up. When I'm doing like administrative tasks, for example, that could feel sometimes a little bit heavy for me. But I do love the in-person like interactions. That really fills my cup.
Yes, I can see that. Which you actually said you're introverted.
I am.
You told me that, but I feel like
so interesting.
I feel like I don't see that from you. Obviously, you're dealing with patients and people all day long.
Yes. Well, the introvert thing, it's like, where do you get your energy from? So I do need like to recharge that battery. And so the alone time is really very sacred for me, to be with myself, to kind of like, and actually, as a, leader of, your business and being, this is something I'm stepping into now, which is so not like traditional medicine, but being more creative of, hey, how do we get messages out that might inspire or maybe help somebody take that next step on their health journey? So now this is like more of a creative type of, area for me, and to really get into that mode of creativity and joy and fun, I do need that space and that alone time as well.
That's true. You regenerate through the alone time.
Yes.
And I understand that.
Yes.
I understand that in the
Yes.
introvert.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
I'm a mixture, I think.
You're a mixture.
I think I'm a mixture because I need my alone time too.
You do.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people think, the introverts are quiet and like the extroverts are so outgoing, but it's really how do you recharge is like the question.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to kind of circle back to a question about, someone. I've fielded this question a lot too, because I have, worked with functional medicine practitioners, and people equate that to something maybe they can't afford.
Ooh, yes.
So I would love to get your thoughts on that and where someone should start if it is a little out of their budget.
Yes. Okay, so another excellent question. So I think like the being on your health journey, it is exactly that. It is quite a journey and it is a process. And I think sometimes, we consume all of this information and we're like, oh, functional medicine, it's like on this big pedestal. And so maybe we've shopped around and we have some ideas of pricing and we're like, oh, that's way out there. That's not for me. And then we tell ourselves a story of like, okay, well, if I can't do that, then I will remain unhealthy and I will remain in the dark. And so my encouragement is that let's kind of catch and realize and like recognize that pattern. And we need to break that, because the reality is there's so much opportunity in just traditional medicine. So I would say that if you have insurance, you can leverage a traditional doctor who can use your insurance for just standard blood work. And that's a wonderful place to start if you haven't yet done that. So do you know what your cholesterol level is? I'm talking about ApoB and LPA, and those are important biomarkers. And yes, you can ask your doctor, hey, can you order these tests for me? And my hope is that your traditional doctor would be open to that. And I know that it's not standard and maybe they haven't learned about it in medical school, but this is the direction that we are going. And patients are empowered and they have the information. But my hope is that they will work with you. And even if they didn't work with you, let's get that LDL. Let's just start there. And the HDL. What's your A1C? What's your basic, CBC? What's your kidney function doing? What's the liver function doing? Let's kind of like master the basics, right? There's so much opportunity there. Let's get up to date with your screening tests. Like that, there's no barrier to get up to date with a mammogram, your colonoscopy, the pap smear. There's no barrier. Let's get started with that. And so we don't need to necessarily have this functional if I don't have functional medicine, I'm doomed, because that's not true. if you have good primary care, you're already ahead of most people. And if you're able to engage with functional medicine, that's more information, more data. You're going a little bit deeper. And the other thing I would say that we're probably trending in this direction, we are recognizing the limitations of the insurance companies, right? So I think a lot of us and a lot of our patients as well, they're starting to think about, wait, if my insurance company doesn't prioritize preventive health, then I need to take this into my own hands and what can I do about it? So they may not be necessarily wealthy people, but now they're being really strategic and they're being intentional with their resources to get what they want. And so that may be a shift. So maybe you get started on the traditional journey today, right? And maybe you start putting a plan in place. So maybe by 2027, you can engage differently with your healthcare. So it doesn't have to be all or none. It doesn't have to be traditional or functional medicine. It can all coexist together. But the important thing is that we just get started today, because if we wait, it could be too late.
So true.
Yeah.
Now, how do you suggest someone goes about finding a good medical partner that you mentioned before? I liked how you said medical partner.
Gosh, I love this question. And, the reality of it is that it's not that easy and it's not that simple. I guess maybe it's simple, not easy. Maybe that might be a better way to think about it. But you have to shop around. You have to interview. You have to go on some dates with some doctors, like, in the office. You have to ask the right questions. You have to see if you're a right fit. You want to look for, competence, the character of the person. Are they kind? Are they compassionate? If I were in a vulnerable moment, like, is this the person that I feel safe with? Like, that's important. And then what's the chemistry? Like, do I like this person? So there's so much that goes into that. Are they going to be open to my ideas or my suggestions? Or are they paternalistic? Do this, do this, do this. Do they tell me what to do? Or are they asking me questions to be a partner with me on my journey? So I would say that, unfortunately, it requires some trial and error. And I also hear this a lot, right? Of like, oh, I saw this doctor and I had such a bad experience. And so we shut down, right? And we're like, I won't do that again. But I think if we have the mindset of, hey, I'm stepping into this next level version of me, which is the CEO of my life, which includes me being the CEO of my health, which means I'm the boss here. And the boss needs to do certain things. I need to interview some folks if they make it onto my health team or not. And this is what I'm going to be doing. So this position is a powerful position and not one of victimhood.
I love that.
Yes.
Stand in your power of you. I'm choosing as my physician.
Yes. If you can go into a space of you are creating your health team. And I'll tell you, we have some patients where I'm not the only provider on the team. I might be one, and although I manage hormones, they may have a hormone person on the team as well. Or, hey, yes, I do, longevity medicine with a functional medicine approach. They may have another functional medicine doctor on the team as well. And the really cool thing is that we cover blind spots, and we have a different perspective. I may see things one way and then we put it together. It's kind of like, the parts of the elephant, right? Like if we're just, what part do I have? And so you can get a more whole picture when you have a team approach. And so we're very open and collaborative, and we love, the integrative approach.
I love that. I feel like maybe not all physicians are as welcoming as you are to working with a team. So that would be a question to ask somebody.
I know.
Now, can you just call? This is a good question. Yes. Like, could you call an office and say, I would like to, are you booking a consultation? Or are you just... Can you do like a Zoom call or something? Like, I never really thought about that.
Okay, so great question. And we've learned so much on this journey, and every office is very different.
Okay.
What I would say is, from our research, most providers in the area, including concierge doctors and functional medicine doctors, they offer a meet and greet.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
And in that meet and greet, you can pick up so much. You can pick up the body language, the eye contact. How do I feel? What's the staff like? When I ask questions, like how did they respond to me? Did they dismiss me, or was I not dismissed? What was that? And so, but again, it requires like being in this frame of mind of like, I'm scouting for the talent that I want on my team.
Yeah.
So not of like, oh, what's available to me? What can I? No, like you get to choose.
I love this building a team.
Yes, team. We have teams, and on our team, we love working with physical therapists and acupuncturists and like other alternative practitioners, because there's different angles. I think my husband was probably like my first official patient on this type of journey. Oh. And we train with somebody who's actually a physical therapist.
Nice.
It's a very different approach to training. And it's so cool to see the magic that happens when we collaborate. So me as the physician and him as the physical therapist, and we kind of joke around like my husband is the patient. But that collaborative approach, I think, really created like results that I hadn't expected if I were approaching this on my own. Mm-hmm.
I love that. The collaboration, the zone of genius,
yes,
the things. Dr. Avianne, this is part 1 because we're coming back for part 2 right now. But I do want you to shout out where people can find you in this episode, and then you have to listen to the next one.
Okay, so this was awesome. And I hope the big takeaway is that it's not too early, it's not too late to get started. And the most important thing is to get started on your health journey now. You are the CEO of your health, and you are a leader on this journey. So we are here to support you. To learn more about me and how we support our patients and our practice, you can follow us on Instagram at Dr. AV_. So that's DOCTORAVI_. And you can visit our website at www.curated.care. CARE.
I could listen to you talk all day.
Oh,
you have such a beautiful accent.
Trinidadian accent.
Trinidadian, and I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
So magical. Okay, come back for part 2. Thanks for tuning into this episode of The Cinnamon Effect. If you enjoyed our time together, don't forget to hit that follow button on your podcast app and sprinkle a little love by leaving us a 5-star rating and a quick review. Your support means the world to me. For even more goodness, check out the show notes where you'll find links to some of my favorite products. And don't forget to visit thecinnamoneffect.com to connect with me directly or to grab your TCE gratitude journal, your next step towards a more grateful life. I can't wait to spice things up with you again next time. Stay vibrant, stay inspired, and remember to add a little cinnamon to your life every day.